Okay,
Okay.
we are streaming, and so let's go check our studio. And we're going to, where is my studio? Here we are. Let's see what we could do here. Okay, we've got connection. We got excellent connection, is what they tell us. So we're going to count on everybody to let us know if you can hear us. And so let's see if this shows up on my live stream. And we're going to, we got one person watching. That'll improve in moments. And all right, let's turn that on. See if we can put a upvote on that. Everybody start hitting upvotes. Oh my God, I've got to see what everybody sent me. And so it today is the 233rd Bill of Rights Day. So I had to teach the lads all about that today, and I'm back to teach all of you, not about the Bill of Rights, but about how our rights are going to be impacted. And T Tank Barry says, "Good evening, loud and clear, brother 100. Love you, T Tank. You have no idea how much I love you." T Tank Barry went through hell to get me a toaster oven, which should be arriving here soon. We predict it will arrive here sometime around maybe Monday of next week. That'll be maybe on the 23rd. Hopefully before then, but it wouldn't even happen to come by that time, except for the fact that he had to get his. Well, when we bring him on, we'll let him tell which part of the story he's willing to tell. But basically, as far as I'm concerned, it's because of my address and the fact that he was going to send it to my address. They threatened. They froze his account, and then they threatened to shut it down. Okay, so let's have Aristides bring everybody on. All right, you're at it, right? Right.
I am about right now.
Great, good man, good man. That's our
All
man
right.
Aristides, and he goes out.
And
Yeah, he
yeah,
goes.
so I
Yeah.
start in blurb and try to do that at the same time.
Oh, no,
Okay.
no need to multitask. You can
All
just
right.
bring everybody on and then do the blur. You
All
know,
right. Right.
yeah.
All
And
right. Once they start talking, if we get a live one, then sometimes it gets everybody hit the upvote. That's the quick blurb.
yeah.
And we'll keep adding here. So
Good
all
idea.
right.
I mean, your point is well taken, but I think that anybody who's brought on, they know the score. They know that, they wait
Sure.
patiently until we're done with our procedures. They'll know to wait till after you've
Yeah.
done your thing.
Yeah. We're not getting our great interrupter these days. I wonder how Brooke is doing. How's she doing?
I hope she's all right. But we'll have Brendan tell us what he knows. Let's
Okay.
see now who responds. Hopefully she responds, and then we'll know. Oh, my shoulder. So let me turn my phone back on, and then that way I can send her a message. Not that that helps. Oh my God! So everybody, I tried my best to take like a short nap before, as soon as I came back and prepared everything I could. Then I am not
Yeah.
I'm not really recovering from the nap.
Right.
I'm pulling out of that dive. But once I get into the Fugé state and start monologuing, which we'll see who we get on tonight, and then hopefully T Tank will join us, and if he joins us, he can relay the story of what happened to him. Oh, well, I grab my tea. And I'm out of the ginseng juice. So all I've got is this ginseng crystal powder, and it's not as potent. So hopefully that keeps me awake through the night. I might go through 2 cups of that, or just stick with the water the rest of the night after I finish it. Um, did you press that button? Yeah.
Yeah, I did. Yep. Yes, I did.
Oh my God. Okay. All right. So,
Wait a minute.
okay. Let me tell Brooke So, tell her to jump on with us. Yeah, there we are. See if she responds. Oh, and say hi to Amy Como, of course. Oh, that must sound awful.
A little tired, but you might perk up.
I hope so. Yes, I'm sure I will. I might. Okay, Brooke Gibson. Where the fuck is she on my text messages here? What happened to her? She's like disappeared. And all right, yeah, she disappeared. I'll have to like go over to the. Oh, maybe it's because it's the. I just turned the phone back on. Here we are. Somebody jump on with us, for God's sake. Have mercy. Pity. If not mercy, then at least pity.
Yeah.
Oh, you hear the man. You hear him groan. Can't leave him alone. This phone is awful the way it interfaces with, the system. Okay, create new contacts. Okay, so it's taking a while for it to get started. That's a. I better put on recharging. All right, everybody. I'm breathing deep for you. So I can get started. Okay, we're going to leave this poor man alone. Before I do that, I am going to ask him to bring up on his screen the, what was it? What I sent you on quantum computing. There's at least...
I didn't get through all that. So,
you couldn't. That's about an hour's worth of reading material. There's no way you could get through all of that unless you were reading for a straight hour at least. So, yes, bring that back up on your screen so you have that to return to. If I don't get back, if something happens to me between the kitchen and coming back here. So yes, so when you have that up on your screen, you let me know, and then you can start your blurb, and you have that to fall back on if I don't get back before you're done with the blurb.
Okay. Well, first, I'm putting the donation link in the chat. Let me indicate it's the donation link.
Excellent. I mean, you know what? I thought of this. By the way, shout out to everybody who's joining us in the chat. God bless you all. We already have a high number of people. We have 250 people already, which we certainly don't deserve. We certainly haven't earned it. But we'll try our best to notification.
Let me try to re-add a few key people in case they didn't hear the first ring.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Can't hurt.
Yes. By the way, Brooke Hagberg in Canada sent 100 United States dollars and says, Merry Xmas to Team Dietrich. Brooke Hagberg, we love you. There are no words to describe you. You're an angel. And Brooke Hagberg, there's plenty to say about what's going on with Canada and the United States, the threats of tariffs and counter tariffs. If I don't get to them tonight, hopefully I'll get to them Wednesday, because this is serious. It's a lot more serious than people think. If the Canadians, a lot of Americans don't know that millions of Americans get their electricity from Canada, and so the Canadians are threatening to cut that off with the threats that are being thrown at them by Donald Trump for no goddamn good reason. So they have every right to defend themselves, to strike back. All that being said, whether I get to that tonight or on Wednesday, I just want people to be aware of that. We will now. Okay, so
is Nemo on?
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, thank God. Yes.
Right.
So, Nemo, first time in 2 episodes. Welcome aboard. We're very grateful for your presence. And would you care to, are you okay? Would you care to give us a situation report, a little status update on how you are?
Yeah, I'm doing fine. I've just been exercising more because I bought a long bar and 50 kilo weights and some dumbbells.
Oh, that's great. What inspired this?
Well, when shit hits the fan, I want to be strong enough to punch a hole through a scumbag. So
Good man. Good man. I love
That's
it.
motivation.
Yes. So do be patient with us. Our man Aristides will read out the blurb. I'm going to get my tea. I'll be back soon enough. And you guys have got this, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right then. All right. You guys are the best. I'm going to go mute. And to everybody who's with us, a little thing from the chat room. Eric Cradle says, "Good evening, team members. Sheila Gavin, love you, honey." She says, "Greetings, dear Douglas and Team Dietrich. Love you, Sheila." And of course, El Nemo also wrote what he did. And my thanks to all of you. I guess what I'll do now is just go mute. And when I come back, we can dive right back into it. Okay, then. All right.
No worries.
Thank you.
All right. Emo.
Yeah, how's it going?
All right.
No
It's going
worries.
pretty well. Going pretty well, man. Appreciate it.
Did you already say what you routinely say?
The blurb, which is make sure you hit the upvote thumbs up icon. That's important because for algorithm purposes and to combat downvotes that are actually placed that you cannot see by detractors and of Douglas, and that affects the ability for the program to be shown in search or randomly displayed, etc., and other things. So please do that. Please make sure you hit the subscribe button that should be nearby and the notification bell that should be next to that to be informed of the program starts, whether on time or sometimes not on time, depending. So it needs to be a restart or a late start. And since you have a account to be able to even do all this, you can go into your account settings and it's under like the menu thing in the corner or whatever, and you can create sub channels to your account without any extra password or login, and each of them is capable of a separate upvote if you're so inclined. I've just done a total of 3 upvotes. You could do that as well, and just kind of switch around real quick and do them in the beginning, and then make sure you switch back to your normal or whatever account you want to talk to us with in the chat, perhaps, or you don't even have to do that. If you would just like to do the extra upvotes, that helps Douglas a lot. So that's the basic blurb.
The more thumbs up, the more recognition he'll gain in the YouTube search algorithm.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Exactly. So
also, I'd like to add for the listeners to please acquire yourself a portable hard drive and download a reliable, trustworthy downloading app, third-party app, or just an extension to add to your web browser, and download as much of Douglas Dietrich's content as possible so you can archive it and re-upload it on multiple media platforms such as YouTube, Odyssey, Rumble, BitChute, Dailymotion, whatever, and even promote the links to the live stream on social media on Facebook or Twitter or Instagram, whatever social media site that you have access to. And that will help to spread the information, and Doug will gain more recognition because this needs to spread like wildfire. The more people that are exposed to Douglas Dietrich and follow and support him, then he'll have a greater chance of having enough support, and then he'll maybe be able to gain secular power and establish a Fourth Reich and help solve a lot of the problems that we're going through within the Western civilization. These problems can be solved down the line.
very good, Nemo. Please remember all that because we might need that to be your blurb that you come on and do.
I'll just have to write it all down and just say it next time.
Yeah. Thank you for that. And of course, the downloading and upload, that's pretty intensive. People like Nemo do that because they're comfortable with that. But as he said, just simply putting the links around, that's all I got to copy paste. That's it. Very easy thing to do. Very easy way to gain recognition and spread the good word. So, you know, if you're not up to all the heavy duty stuff, just that anyone can do that. Anyone. So
Yeah, it's very easy and very simple. And portable hard drives are getting pretty cheap these days. If you go and just fucking look on eBay or Amazon or wherever you wish to purchase from, get yourself like a 4 terabyte portable hard drive, even 6 terabyte. You can afford it.
Yeah.
It's not that expensive.
right. Yep.
I'm gonna have to purchase another portable hard drive eventually. I'll just have to get a 6 or 8 terabyte one.
Yeah.
I only have a 4 terabyte and 2 terabyte, but that's a lot of stuff I've downloaded off YouTube. I put on there.
Yeah, you can start smaller. You know, you don't have to get a 10 terabyte and start a little smaller. 2 terabytes easy enough. You know, they've been around, slightly used, something like that.
Or even archive, like you download it up on Google Drive or on a cloud service, and then you can give access to people to download compressed folders that you upload on the cloud service, Google Drive or whatever. There's plenty of various ways to archive and download, upload and download. Even Internet Archive is a worthy place of uploading all of his content on there, even though it's constantly being surveilled by the feds.
Yeah. Yep. Very good. And we got to give credit to Nemo. He's even created, and John Henry Mills Warrington, who have created alternate channels and re-uploaded the content so that it is available as a backup.
It'd be nice if he'd come on the streams every now and then, because he's active on other live stream on shows and stuff.
Or his active hours seem to be right after we end, which is funny, but
yeah, he's going through his own problems, I guess. Like he doesn't want to.
Yeah, just have weird hours, like, you know. Well, when we end, what time is it over there? It's afternoon, but he might be a night owl, you know.
Yep.
So.
Yeah, I had a really interesting dream a few days ago, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. Go ahead.
One segment of the dream, I was just walking down the street in the public, and you know, just on my side, there's like just rows of houses and whatnot. Walking through the grass, and in this one house I happen to walk by, I hear screaming and yelling from an old lady, trying to gain my attention. I don't know if she was trying to lure me to her property or whatnot, but I was just ignoring her and just kept walking. But when I ignored her, then I just felt a force trying to bind or hold me, but it was very weak. So I just kicked it off. So get that shit off me, you old bitch. Just kept walking. As soon as I broke that hold, she comes out of her property and approaching me quite desperately. But as soon as she comes near me, I just hold up my pendant towards her, both of my pendants, and that scared her off.
Whoa! I just got back in time to hear this. Holy shit! What? Whoa! What was this encounter? How did this happen?
Oh, it was just in a dream I had a few days ago.
Okay.
Of this old lady trying to gain my attention and trying to get a hold of me. Because she was yelling at me as I was walking past her home. But when I was ignoring her, then I felt like an invisible force trying to hold me, like hold my legs to stop me from walking.
Okay.
But I was able to kick it off with ease because it was low power. Whatever it was sourced from was probably her. But when I broke that hold, yeah, she just comes out of her home and approaches me. And then I just showed my pendants towards her, and then she took off. She got scared.
This sounds so real, the way you describe it, like this was an actual incident. It's so that's incredible. Thank you for sharing that. I appreciate that. How about yourself, Aristides? Any particularly vivid dreams lately?
No, not actually. I was getting more, I felt, when I started. Here I'm talking about melatonin again. When I started it with the lower dose, but I think with a higher dose, it's such a deep sleep. Because your dreams are I think an intermediate level of sleep, not the deepest. You know.
Hard to tell.
Right.
Well,
yeah, because there's different brain waves and stuff. And your dreams are kind of in the middle. of the between, awake and very, very deep sleep. So maybe it's just it's such a deep, restful sleep that I don't know. I don't remember any recently. So, but I was getting a lot when I first started, like the lower dose of melatonin.
Interesting. Well, and when you did have those dreams, what were they like?
I don't remember. I don't have any real good recall of what to say right now.
Have you had any experiences where you're being attacked in a dream and you're fighting them off through life?
Yeah. He has that in real life. Yeah.
Yeah, just chihuahuas.
Chihuahuas nibbling on your face.
Yeah, jumping on me, climbing on me. Yeah.
Hey, Nemo, do you remember Justin White at all and what had happened to him with Cho attack?
Vaguely. You might have to remind me on that. Yeah.
Oh, I mean, no need to go into it right now. I'll probably go into it at some point.
Justin White?
Yeah.
Like that name's familiar. I just can't remember the whole backstory behind that attack that he had.
Oh, yeah. Justin White was one of those decent guys, and it's really sad. I'm blowing out this tea, so if you hear a scream, it's because I'm burning myself with it. Ah, God, Jesus, I don't know if that's gonna help. So you missed out. You missed out on it. My bitterness at the beginning of the. I called Aristides, which I usually don't do. I called him before the show started. Usually I call him after I start the stream. And this time I called him a few minutes before I started the stream. So he was asking if we were live, and I was saying, yeah, but I was, telling him, oh, God, I'm home and I really don't want to be back in the crypt, right? And yeah, I get better with it, I guess, as I get a bit more awake. Like I said, I came home, tried to nap for a while. Really, it's rare because I didn't get enough time to take a nap, really. So it's rare that I have that horrible experience where you kind of just fall into that half sleep state and then you just have to get up. And so I'm still getting into it. We'll see how long I last tonight. Whatever the case, if
what's the cocaine inventory like?
It's not good.
Sorry for the first.
Yeah, it should improve later. But yeah, it's just I'm at the end of it. I ran out of everything, but that's why you understood intuitively. That's why I'm pissed.
I'm sorry to hear that, buddy.
It's life's hard on me. I know. By the way, for those people writing me already about the cigarette, Jesus Christ, the toaster oven. Thank God T-Tank Berry has got that covered, because I'm, until that toaster oven arrives, I do have to heat up my meals on wheels for when I am home. Because when I'm mostly home, it's obviously to do this transmission. When I do this transmission, I do take my supplements. I have to eat something that's actually solid food to buffer those supplements with. If you take a lot of vitamins at once, it can really play havoc with your system if you don't have food to buffer it with. And so it only heats up one meal tray because it's a small toaster oven, whereas the old one I had that was sent by Lena Shea was one I could heat 2 meals up at a time with, which of course they make these meals for like dying seniors or something. And the theory is as you get older, you need less food. I think the real working theory is they're just trying to starve them to fucking death. But at any rate, I'm a fucking vampire, and once you start eating, you still don't feel satisfied until you get something in you. And for people who just still don't get it about my system being so complicated, I am 2/3 human and only, 3/4 human, theoretically. Technically, I'm not. But 1/4 vampire, and still I need food. It's a tricky system where I'm not like a full vampire and just can subsist totally off blood. And as a result, when I do eat, and I have to eat, buffer the vitamins, and I'm heating up these Meals on Wheels, and I've got this tiny little toaster oven. It's so small, it melts the trays. So, it's obviously I'm only using this out of desperation until the new toaster oven arrives, thanks to T. Tank Berry. Blessed be his name. And I say that in all sincerity, and to a person who deserves it, as opposed to Peter Moon saying that about Jordan Peterson, of all people. But when it comes to what I'm using right now, if I keep up this for longer than what I intend to, God knows I'd get cancer from it eventually, because, there's got to be melted plastic that I'm eating with this. And so it's, it's just, yeah.
How are you heating it up?
In the
right
toaster
now?
oven. The toaster oven.
Oh.
The small
Okay.
toaster oven.
In a small toaster oven. All right.
Yeah, which, because I had to go down and buy that from Cole Hardware. That's all they had. And, it's like half the size of the one that Lena Shea sent me years ago. And so it doesn't have room for, heating the Meals on Wheels trays. So it
How
melts.
large?
Yeah.
How large are each of these meals that you got to heat up, and how large is your toaster oven?
It's hard to describe. This is one thing where I've never bothered.
Like dinner plate size?
They're the size of like what would you describe it as? Okay, we can look it up so I can show you.
Just in volume, like not the shape, just the content, the volume of the content.
Okay.
Will it barely fill a dinner plate? Because I was just maybe suggesting if you could take the frozen content out of the plastic packaging, place it on a heat resistant plate that's lined with foil. You put a layer of foil on the plate, put the food on there, then cover it up with a few layers of foil and heat it that way, so you're not getting plastics on it when it's heating up.
Right. No, that's adorable. I'm only doing this for a short period of time. It shouldn't really impact my life, but your suggestion is well taken, and it's an intelligent idea. It would be more impractical than what it's not even the effort. It's surely it can't be done. The Meals on Wheels have liquid in them. I'd be putting liquid in whatever I'm putting. It's like there's so many factors involved with it. It's just not.
Yeah, I've noticed like when you heat up those frozen meals, they're like real watery, and you got to fucking drain it out.
Yeah.
Of the package.
It's not that you need to drain the Meals on Wheels package. You're trying to eat the liquid that's in the package, but it's
like the sauces and gravies and whatever.
That's right. Yeah. So here we are. How to start a reusable tray program. They wouldn't want these trays back. It's not really given the volume, but here we are. I'll show you a picture. So I'm sharing a screen share right now, and here we go. This is an image of them, and it's like this.
These, separate tray.
Yeah.
And one big one.
Yeah. So I would heat two at a time like this. They're the same size. I would heat two at a time like this when I had the old one from Lena Shea, and like I said, it's kind of sad. If I were a real asshole, I would say that I enjoyed having that Oster toaster oven that she sent, which was top of the line, because you get this satisfaction of using something from an enemy, like like people keep trophies from their enemies and they use them as and they derive satisfaction from that, or just to
use for intimidation too towards anyone else who opposes them.
Right. But that's not really what I felt. It was just like I said, she was love bombing me with this stuff back when she was insinuating herself upon me, all per her assignment, of course, which was simply to cause havoc. Like, this is all these people are in my life for. The overwhelming majority that people have heard on my program over the past decade have been the enemy. They've just been people who have been assigned to do nothing else other than to cause as much havoc as possible. And that includes, of course, Peter Moon, who I always knew to be the enemy and held at bay, for 10 years, maybe before I started working with him. It's hard to believe. Let me see.
How long have you known him?
It couldn't have been that long, because I guess I knew him for 10 years and worked with him for 5, I guess is what it was. Something like that, maybe
Holy
6 or
shit.
7. Well, yeah, that's too long, right? That's too long, yeah. But I'm trying to remember back when I was working with Laura Lee Solomon, and that was when we were holding Peter Moon at arm's length. But finally I had to surrender to the fact that I had to produce something at least to get it, solidly there to work on later. And in other words, to fix it after he fucked it up, which I knew he was going to do. So that has all come to pass. By the way, if anybody thinks this is a self-fulfilling prophecy, obviously that's not the case. I'm surrounded now by a very supportive team of people. Aristides, Nemo, and of course everyone else. T-Tank Berry, and of course I consider her an honorary member of the team, Brooke Hagberg in Canada. And of course, Brooke Gibson, that goes without saying. So I am worried about her. Now, I got some messages from
Away from her recently? Or you did?
Brendan got some call. He'll tell us he got some attempts from her to text him, but was unable to call her back, or rather tried to call her back, but it didn't. Nothing came of it. But I will tell people this, that to give people an example. I don't think T. Tank Berry will mind my sharing this. To give people an example of, oh, by the way, shout out to John Henry McMills Warrington, and he has produced so much, and I'm just so glad he's out there. So if you're out there, John Henry, please know that you're always on my mind. Thank you so much for everything you do. And he's I don't know what he's doing with the vampire research paper that we were able to get out half that book of, but he was put a link up to it in his latest messages to me. He's been doing a lot of work, uploading a lot. And so that being said, John, you're welcome to come on with us. I know you're out there, and I know you're probably asleep right now, but I do know that you wake up at odd times. But he does mention that he has a bandwidth issue. But we'll find out more as the future goes on. But when it came to T. Tank Berry, just to show you how much they monitor my situation and try to prevent me from surviving it all, indeed are trying to extend my time using this little toaster oven so that I have more chances of giving myself cancer. When our man T. Tank Berry sent me the toaster oven, ordered it from Amazon, then Amazon froze his account and said that this was in, basically they froze it in anticipation of shutting the account down. So I do want people to know that there was no reason for that. He has ordered from Amazon all his life, or certainly a good part of it, and he was using the same credit card he was always using. But as soon as he ordered a toaster oven to be delivered to the address of Douglas Dietrich, they said there is suspicious activity on your account. So there you go with that. It just goes to show how these bastards are fixated on me. So all that being said, that's boring as all hell. We'll get to more exciting stuff and monologues soon enough, if nobody joins us soon enough. But before that, let's try and hold a bit of a round table and let everyone know that you guys can talk. But I think you guys have proven that. But go on with it.
I'm here.
What brought on the subject of dreams earlier? What were you guys talking about before it went to that?
I just had to dialogue after he did his blurb, and I did my little blurb and just continue on
Oh yeah,
from
by
there
the
with
way,
an
Nemo had
interesting
a
topic.
Okay.
yeah, a really great blurb, like so far superior to my blurb, and I think he needs to come on every time and do that. You should review it, about downloading and uploading content, and how Douglas needs to establish secular power and all this. Very.
Oh
very,
wow!
very good.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, you got to review that.
So of course I would want Nemo to be on. Every episode if we could convince him.
Or if maybe I'll record it.
Sounds good.
And if you can't make it, I'll just play it.
Well, I know what you can do
with his permission.
Just write it down.
Yeah,
I'll do that later. I'll write it down.
Yeah, but it means more you saying it because that's the type of stuff that you say.
Yeah.
Well, let's put it this way. It's, as I've said before, psychological studies conducted by Michael Aquino proved that Americans are far more receptive to someone with a Commonwealth or British accent, British or Commonwealth accent, than they are to someone speaking, American English. So, yes, by all means, Nemo, if you can come on, whenever you can come on, always make certain to insert yourself and interject and make certain to get that blurb out there for every time you're on with us. So that's great. Yeah. And such being said, that reminds me, I was going to share this with you. One of the Blood Boys had said that I should have this kind of blurb added to just make certain that nobody gives me shit, because what had happened was there was one disturbed individual whose name I honestly don't even remember. They're not a regular. They were an odd case. They came on into the chat room, kind of went off and went nuts. This was not a recent episode. This was like weeks ago. And so I finally just had to shut them down. And then the $7 they had sent me, they demanded back, which then PayPal told me to ignore, much to the credit of PayPal. I didn't even need to file a response to their demand for their money back, which they had asked via a complaint that they inserted, or I don't know what they call it. I guess complaint's the closest thing I can think of that they inserted to PayPal. When I related this to the lads at the estate, so one of them came up with this and said I should have something like this. So I just entered that right now. But yeah, look, I think that something like that is almost, it strikes me as so obvious to say, this is what they wrote. Disclaimer, by donating to me, by the way, I would not use that term, I would use contribute. But anyhow, by donating to me, you are claiming that the money being donated is your own money, and you are willingly and voluntarily donating this money. You acknowledge that you are receiving no items in return for this donation, and that the money donated is non-refundable. This strikes me as something that literally does not need to be said. Not that I'm saying anything negative about the young man who thought this up. It's just,
I should just go without saying.
Thank you. Thank you. You would think. But then Brendan Zokit brought something up that was a observational point. He feels that some of these people think that they're purchasing a part of me. Obviously, that's not the case with Brooke Hagberg, who has never asked for anything in return. God bless her. Though, of course, I want her to know that if anything, if anyone were to ask me for anything, and if I could do something to honor that, I would for Brooke Hagberg. And of course, as well, oh yes, Crystal River sent me this wonderful little joke. I'm just noticing this now in my little notifications here. And it says, what do you get when you cross a snowman and a vampire? Frostbite. It's so cute. Okay, so Crystal, jump on if you can. So all that being said, however, it's yeah, I guess there's people out there who do have that feeling that they're supposed to get something in return when they contribute. But then again, that is the danger of the fact that my venue is at this point in history so small. If I were somebody who was on a much more larger platform, and this is, the thing that I find so incredible. Now, I don't get this anymore. Say, for instance, the person who did that $7 plus change donation and then asked for it back said, oh, I gave this money to you under something like false pretense or something. When I mentioned that, that's why they came up with this. In other words, I don't know what they were expecting. That I allow them to choke up the chat room with insane insults, because even though they weren't attacking me per se, they may as well have been. They were just ranting and raving in the chat room, and you just can't allow that. But when it came to, say, for instance, what's another example of something like that? This is what puzzles me, but it's this ugly fact of the world we live in. When you were on something like, when I was on something like Revolution Radio, or say if I were on something that was a much larger venue, what do you hear them do? I mean, the whole point of presenting yourself on some kind of platform is, what do all these people do? They fucking monetize. So everywhere you go on YouTube, unless somebody is truly just somebody who's like got a tiny little channel where they are realistic enough to realize nobody's going to send them anything, and they're just putting stuff up as kind of like a personal journal, almost in that spirit of it, like it's a personal journal they're sharing with the world. Everything you see is these people is just video after video. Support me on Patreon, because they can't monetize worth of shit on YouTube. Now, I'm fortunately in that gray area where I'm not large enough to do that. In other words, I don't need to ask you to go to Patreon, because I know, why they ask people to go to Patreon, because everything they get on YouTube gets sucked away by YouTube. Because I had that experience when that Selena Khan fucked me up 8 ways to Sunday by monetizing the channel for live donations. And she set it up in such a way, and even though she's not completely responsible, she's got to be at least 25 to 50% responsible. I'm still not familiar enough with the system, but what I've gone over it with Brendan Zogia, we both concluded that she's got to be 25 to 50% responsible, not even malignantly, just out of her ignorance. She set up the situation in such a way that that YouTube, when I got live donations, YouTube just sucked them up like a vacuum cleaner. And then when YouTube sent me back, years later, this notification that, hey, we got, 300 some odd dollars of your money. Why don't you write to us, or we're just going to keep the money. And it's like what a shitheaded, why do they bother? It's like, of course I wrote to them, did everything that they said to do, and they still kept the money. It's like, what's the point? But that was everything with the donations with YouTube. It was originally what had happened, as a matter of fact, was YouTube was charging me for the monetization, which is what they do. They want to cut. And originally, this was years ago, the donations amounted to about $300, which they then felt they were owed like penny for penny, and said something like, your contributions are too small for us to give this to you. You have to make something like 10 times that amount, like $3,000, in order for us to give you a percentage of it. But because you made only 300, it's ours, because we need to cover the cost of your monetization. And not only did they keep it, they reached into my bank account and took $300 out of my bank account. At which point, thank God, banks are still more powerful than Google, which owns YouTube. And I went to the bank and said they stole my money. And the bank just reached back into Google's account and stole the money back. But again, this is how it's just like, this is why everybody on YouTube that you see, which is owned by Google, asks you to go to Patreon to watch them. Watch me on Patreon. Watch the full video on Patreon. Because they can't make any money on YouTube. So such having been said, it reminds me of something else. Now, you are probably all familiar. I don't expect Nemo to be because he's in Australia, but American news is so inescapable. Nemo probably knows about it. I know he knows about Luigi Manion, who killed the CEO. But was it Nemo? Was it Brendan? One of you asked me, do they even pay those rewards? Because
that would have been him. Yeah.
Okay.
Brendan.
Yeah. Or maybe, yeah, wouldn't have been Aristides, because I think Aristides is cynical enough where he probably just, never really thought of it, or probably expects they don't.
To do what?
Oh, basically there was that. Are you aware of how Luigi Manion was caught?
Yeah.
Okay, well, tell us what you know. Tell us what you know.
I don't know everything. He just kind of wandered around and just showed up at a McDonald's, and still a lot to that is difficult to put together in a cohesive picture.
The old lady turned him in. The old lady who was running the McDonald's turned him in. Yeah.
Yeah.
And she was like this. I wouldn't say she was like the owner of the franchise. By that I don't mean like top level management, but she was like a manager at a managerial level of staff that had total seniority, may have had stock in the store itself as part of this franchise that might or might not have been purchased by her, or she might have been a co-owner in that sense. But at the absolute least, she was the highest level of management that was not involved with ownership of that particular little McDonald's franchise. And so then what happened was that when she realized who it was, all of the young people working with her told her, do not turn him in. But she went for it and she turned him in. Now, when I was asked, well, do they even pay those rewards? And I said, that's a legitimate question. But I went back and I looked at the, shall we say, the wanted posters, and I realized she totally fucked herself. This stupid bitch, because now, of course, everybody's given a 1-star report to her franchise, and everybody's like giving her death threats, and she's gonna have to stop working there. The franchise is probably gonna have to close down because nobody's going there anymore. So they
fucking do-gooder boomers. They make me sick.
Oh, it wasn't even do-gooder. She just wanted the money. She just wanted the money, but she fucked up because obviously people look at those posters and the police were offering $10,000. The FBI was offering $50,000. So she thought there's $60,000 all at once. So she's near retirement anyway. She figured that would be a good way to phase out, right? I mean, extra 60 grand, and who cares if this franchise closes? This would be her reasoning. She's probably not involved with a co-ownership, but she was probably highest level of management. So she just figured, well, I'm going to retire anyway. If the results are going to be this kind of, blowback, where they're going to shut the store down like the kids were warning her, because all the negative reviews and everybody, hey, it wouldn't matter because she's going to be retired. And she could take the $60,000, move out of the city, and, settle down someplace else, and probably enter an FBI witness protection program. She probably even had that fantasy. And which, of course, that's
how naive of her. Like, most of these boomers, they show a lot of loyalty to their law enforcement and government, but they don't realize there's no honor amongst them.
Yes,
I don't give a fuck about you, no matter how loyal you are to them.
Well, if anything, exactly as you say, it proves Luigi Manion's point that the system is hopelessly corrupt to the point where he felt there was no option but for him to lash out and make a statement in such a way that the corruption of the system would need to be confronted. I mean, a great example is the man he killed. The man he killed was a man who deserved to die. Now, this isn't just Douglas Dietrich talking. This is the American people talking. Now, to give you an idea of who your enemy is, just think of anybody who starts shitting and pissing all over Disney. Anybody who shits and pisses all over Disney, you know they're a piece of shit. They're crazy. It's a good example is the governor Ron DeSantis of Florida, who broke the back of Florida's economy, which is largely dependent on Disney. And Disney is this sovereign little state, the equivalent of almost an independent mini kingdom, which is why they took that title, that exists because it brings in this enormous amount of money, because it pays its own taxes. It helps the community by bringing in that wealth, which makes everybody shop and spend money in the surrounding area. All of that has been impacted severely by Ron DeSantis declaring war on Disney. Again, the insanity of the formerly pro-Republican, or rather pro-business Republican Party going against business and deciding that they're going to go against capitalism. Think about what I'm saying. Republicans going against capitalism on the basis of their Russian-inspired ideology. I mean, they've taken up the color red, like the Russians. They've taken up a communist ideology, which is antithetical to corporate business, and destroyed their regional economy. And anybody who's stupid enough to swing with them on this, it's basically they've destroyed themselves, because all the people in the area didn't have to pay taxes because Disney was covering all the expenses, because it was making so much money. And now that Disney is no longer going to be a sovereign little state with its own police force and its own, that means everybody has to pay for public police to go in and police Disney, and everything else involved with that, emergency responders, paramedics, firemen, which Disney had its own fire department, its own paramedics, all that's gone now. Now all the local taxpayers have to cover that. Their taxes have gone up by $200,000 a year. It's
Holy shit.
Yeah, this is how insane the Republicans have fucked them over and wiped out their own local economy. But all of that being beside the point, why they do this? Because they tell you Disney's kidnapping kids. Look at the way I fluck that up. Kidneys snapping kids. And hopefully I'm not like that the rest of the night. But this is why cocaine's so important, kids. All right, all that being said, the point is, use your common sense. If kids were disappearing in Disney, people would stop going to Disney. It's that simple.
And parents would obviously notice if their kids are going missing, and kids don't go there by themselves.
Thank you.
Without parental supervision.
I mean,
But
know,
it is,
yeah, go on.
At the least, like, it is kind of a place for predators to go and actually perv on kids. But yeah, that's it. They're not kidnapping.
No, it's a magnet for perverts.
Yeah, it's a magnet.
Yeah, but nevertheless, we know when something happens to a kid at Disney, like the time this alligator, because there's gators all over Florida, an alligator ate a kid at Disney. And when an alligator ate
back
a kid...
in the 70s or 80s.
Oh, no, that was recent. It probably
a recent one.
Yeah, that was fairly comparatively recent.
Probably happened more than once or twice.
Oh, yeah, it's got to happen every once in a while. I mean, it's impossible to avoid. The gators are everywhere, and of course, kids go near them like they're toys. And but at any rate, I'm thinking of maybe the year 2017, something like that, 2016, 17. Yeah, so, but at any rate, my point being that when something happens to a kid at Disney, you know it. But at any rate, what you remember the big trip with Ian West was, Disney's got all these kids in cages. They're all, anyhow. So just to prove what a piece of shit he is and how wrong he is, at the recent Disney concert, and this was a Disney concert, they were playing all this Disney themed stuff for the young kids, and they made certain, they gave their DJ the order to basically put up they've got these huge enormous screens, and they show pictures of Mickey Mouse on and shit while people are dancing or wherever the fuck the Disney thing is showing. I don't think they do the Mickey Mouse trip anymore. They're doing like they're like, kids are like, beyond that these days. So they're showing like whatever, things they're showing. And then they decide to throw up Luigi Manion. So they threw up all these big pictures of Luigi Manion at the concert. And all the kids went wild cheering. And all the parents did too. And everybody was cheering. And so it goes to show you Disney's aware of the popular pulse. They have their finger on the popular pulse. And it goes to show you that they're not the corporation like the kind that the killer CEO was in charge of. Fuck, I hate him so much. Brian Thompson, I nearly bleached his name. But when it came to Luigi Manion killing Brian Thompson, he did so because he was driven to no other option. There was no other option for justice for him. And he was confronted with a completely corrupt system. Now, this is what that woman is now confronting who turned him in. So she is not going to get any reward money. So when I followed up...
Great awakening for her.
Yeah, when I followed up by looking at the posters themselves say the police are willing to pay up to $10,000. And the FBI poster said the FBI is willing to pay up to $50,000. So basically what happens is she calls them up for the reward, and they're going to tell her, we said we'd pay up to $10,000, but we're not going to pay you anything. Guaranteed that's what they're going to say. And they're going to come up with all kinds of bureaucratic excuses. They're going to come up with, the FBI needs to nominate you through a consul to decide if you deserve any money. Whatever money you are awarded will take years for them to process. Years. And that, not only that, you will be taxed. It is not tax-free income. It's, the whole thing is totally fucked. It is just like a system that was never meant to work. It is, it's just a way to get you to put your own life at risk, and without them having to extend any effort. So you're literally, as a taxpayer, paying the taxes for the salary of both the policeman and the FBI, but when you do their work for them, they aren't paying you back. This is why our system is so corrupt. This was the statement Luigi Manion was making. This is why everyone cheered when his face was thrown up on the screens at a Disney concert. And all credit to Disney for doing that. And it goes to show you where Ian West is at. He's on the side of people who are the corporations who are against Luigi Manion, as opposed to those which sympathize with him. If you want to know why Disney would sympathize with him, because their business is dependent on living people. They're not a funerary service. They need their clientele to be alive. Who kills their clientele? Insurance companies kill their clientele by denying everyone care. So again, use your common fucking sense and think, why is Ian West so against Disney? We know it's not because they're kidnapping kids, because we know they're not kidnapping kids. We know this because people would stop going to their parks if their kids were disappearing. So it's just he's against them because he's on the side of the corporations that basically destroyed the life of Luigi Manion and tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of other people. So there we go with that. And
he was avenging a lot of people's deaths and
absolutely
serving some form of justice.
Absolutely. And again, for anybody who just doesn't fucking get it, let me try and see if I can remember through my addled brain a good example of this kind of corruption. And if I'm trying to think of this one prison guard that I knew. He was somebody who he was working with the prison system, and when I was involved with police and security work, I got to know him through that work. So if I reflect back upon it, it was a few years ago that he was driving around, and well, basically, there was this other guy driving around at the time who was shooting at people on the freeway. The victims got a description of the guy and his truck, and this organization that works with the police and the feds, called Crime Stoppers, offered a very large reward for information leading to the arrest. Now, one day, this correctional officer was driving with his family, and the dude drives up and shoots him. So he yells for everyone to get down. He's injured, but he calls 911. He reports the incident, but after he drops his family off safely, instead of going to the hospital, he basically, well, I think what he did was he told his family to get off right then and there because it was close to where they could walk to home or call a cab or something. But he wanted them out of the action because he followed this son of a bitch. And then he followed this guy till he pulled over at a gas station. So the shooter thought he'd gotten away, and he went into the gas station to buy a snack, of all things. And that's when the CO, the correctional officer, was still talking to the police, because he obviously called them when he told his family to get out of the car and was still on the phone with him while he was trailing this guy. So he quietly cleared the gas station, got everyone to drive off, because he was probably still in his correctional officer's uniform, if I remember. So they just took his word as if he was a cop. And by the way, a correctional officer is a licensed law enforcement officer, and they do have concealed carry permits. So this guy was not pretending, or what would you call it when somebody's pretending to be an officer? I forgot what they call that.
Impersonator.
Thank you. He was not impersonating an officer of the law when he did this. So if I get anybody trying to come at me with that bullshit. But at any rate, the police showed up, and they all worked together with this injured officer to arrest the gunman. So then, bigger than shit, this is a sworn officer of the law himself. He called Crime Stoppers to get his money. They just didn't tell him no. They told him, no, but hell no. They turned him down because he was a victim. And they said, once you're a victim, you don't get the reward. Didn't you read the fine print? And besides that, you called 911 law enforcement instead of calling Crime Stoppers, because they're supposed to get the credit. And because he was involved in the takedown, that disqualified him on all counts, because they only pay for information that leads to the arrest. And they said, next time, call them first, and then they will call the police, and his job is to stay out of it. And that's the only way he would qualify to get money from the Crime Stoppers. Now, bear in mind, this is an organization that works with the police and the feds, and is supported by your contributions, your donations. This is, now, when they're pulling this shit, you can imagine what the feds are doing, or the police are doing when you come for your reward. The only way you can get a reward is to be a bounty hunter. Because if they stop paying bounties, no one's going to hunt down criminals for them. So only by being a bounty hunter will you get a reward on bringing a man down. Because at that point, they're obligated. Basically, it's a situation where you have to be a violent thug who is armed yourself to get money. I mean, we're on the level of, that's what mercenary work's all about. And I don't think people understand it.
Use scum to kill scum.
Yeah. That's what it comes down to. That's what it comes down to. It's so when you think of the government cannot afford to rip off the scum that hunt down other scum, because then they'd be left with nobody. So you're left with a criminal system. It's intrinsically, pervasively, through and through, a criminal system. When you've got the structural violence of this is what I don't get is for instance, just the obsession the media has with Nazism, and it's gotten worse and worse, like a festering sore. Their anti-Nazism. It's when I was young, and in the 80s, there was a DC comic called Creature Commandos, and it was about the men who had been mutated in such a way that they were similar to the Universal Studios monsters, a vampire, a werewolf, a flesh construct, meaning someone similar to a Frankenstein's creation. And they were being used by the Allies to attack the enemy. There was a totally separate character in those same types of comics DC was producing called G.I. Robot, who never fought the Nazis. Not originally. He was entirely in the Pacific Theater of War. And G.I. Robot was this mechanism, of course humanoid, that was fighting the Japanese and various mechanized robots they were creating. And the whole purpose of his character was to show that as a robot, he was far more human than his fellow human Marines. That was the whole point of that comic. Again, this was the 80s. When they showed him fighting the Japanese, there was one time the Japanese created this biofacsimilacra geisha. That was a Japanese female robot that was leading Allied Marines into areas of vulnerability where she killed them, isolated them and killed them after luring them. And he, the GI robot, was sent to kill her or destroy her, and couldn't do it. So he simply just lured her by basically provoking her by showing his presence, and because he wasn't a human being, she recognized that she could not seduce him. So she fires at him with all of these internal weaponry mechanisms that she's equipped with, and keeps following him until finally she falls into a booby trap that he did not set up. It's just the nature of the forest booby trap set up by all the warring sides. She falls into basically crossfire and dies. But you show him weeping these tears of oil after she's destroyed. All they showed him was this. And then all of the Marines, the human American Marines, making fun of him, saying, "Oh, the fucker must be built. He must be built with Jap parts. He must have Jap parts inside of him. Yeah, maybe he's made in Japan." So they showed his Marines as just these American assholes, and he's far more human and sympathetic a character than that was the whole point of his arc of narrative and his plot line. When they reintroduce the character now as in like the latest cartoon they put him in, and we're talking about, what is it now, 2024, they what they call retcon. They retroactively reconstruct his entire narrative so that he's one of the creature commandos. And then they say, oh, he was fighting the Nazis and he killed hundreds of Nazis. And his whole character, whereas before he was unable to speak, he had no mechanisms to vocalize, he keeps talking, and all he talks about is kill Nazis, and he says, do you have any members in your immediate vicinity that are card-carrying members of the Nazi party? And finally they take him someplace which is loaded with neo-Nazis, and he's like, oh, Nazis, and then starts killing them all. And this is supposed to be a good thing, and they're showing this. Now, bear in mind, he's killing unarmed civilians in a modern environment that are neo-Nazis, following his programming, but we're told this is a good thing in the cartoon. So it's gotten not only do they retroactively reconstruct this character, they reconstruct him with no human features. He's a monofocal, what you would consider otherwise, if he were human, a psychotic. He's a mass murderer, but this is good because he's killing a certain people who cleave to an ideology that the producers are promoting as evil, that we should all be like this. Because who's going to be watching this cartoon? Adults, yes, but most certainly kids. So it goes to show you that if the Americans won the war, why is their hatred festering more and more with the passing years, where it gets increasingly psychotic, and their characters that they were introducing years after the war as wartime characters that were certainly not that inhuman or that they've just made them into something that's a caricature of what they were. It goes to show you how the situation in America has become so obsessively focused on Nazism for reasons that if you were to ask people why, they would say, well, they killed people. And if you say all kinds of people kill people during wartime, they would say, no, it's different. They would say they killed all of these civilians. Then if you pointed out the Americans bombed entire cities, incinerated them into this flaming inferno that killed thousands and thousands of people, burning them alive, then they'd say somehow that is morally superior than the Germans putting people into ovens while they were dead. And just bear in mind, nobody went into those ovens alive. When you're faced with a hot oven, threat of death don't mean shit. So, believe me, they were dead before they went into those ovens. So, when it comes to this insane response, bear in mind that here in America, you tolerate that same level of violence that dwarfs what happened in the Third Reich. You have people like Brian Thompson, the head of insurance CEOs. Let me tell you something. It's been proven that, and you can look this up, don't take my word for it, it's not Douglas Dietrich propagandizing against corporate America. Basically, the insurer, United Health, which Brian Thompson was the CEO of, is violating federal law by strategically limiting access to critical treatment for children with autism. So, with all of the denials that they have imposed and enforced upon their insurees over the decades, guaranteed, they've killed millions of people. Then you compound that by all the other insurance corporations performing the same shit, strategically denying insurance for a profit. And this is the other thing the Jews will tell you that just gropes my ass. Oh, the Nazis made a profit off of killing us. They turned our hair into felt to line their blankets. They turned our skin into lampshades. They turned our fat into bars of soap.
It's called recycling and hitting multiple birds with one stone.
But beyond that, when American insurance companies make a profit off of denying children and seniors and the weak and the helpless medical care, and they die by the millions, that structural violence is considered capitalism. That it's a good thing. That the Nazis, why do they hate them so? Oh, it was different than just war. What they were doing was evil. That it was profiting in an industrial scale on the mass murder of these innocents. But in America by now, you've more than accomplished a genocide that surpasses the Nazis, who killed 6 million? Far more than 6 million Americans have been killed by insurance companies. Far more. At this point, we're talking about what has to number in the scores of millions of people over the decades. Yet these people are considered corporate heroes, heroes of capitalism, captains of industry. And for one young man who himself is a wealthy young white man who graduated from an Ivy League school, lived a life of privilege until, guess what? He had all this money to invest time in weightlifting, building himself a cut and buff body, and then the poor fucker suffered an accident. Then when he suffered a spinal injury, he's lying on his back, and all the insurance he paid into comes back. Medical care denied.
Wow.
Then his life goes to shit. Then he can't get out of bed. Then he struggles, and what motivates him to finally be able to get himself together and walk? His desire to kill the man who did this to him. And so he finally gets his act together, kills the CEO who was ultimately responsible for denial of his care, and he gets turned in like Jesus by Judas by some old cunt in a McDonald's franchise thinking she was going to get her pound of gold, and she winds up without even pennies to rub together. Yeah, the government...
Suck shit, bitch.
Yeah.
Fucking sellout traitor.
Yeah.
I would have liked it if they just like offered a McDonald's coupons just as a fuck you to her.
Yeah, they may as well have. Well, believe me, she's getting it. All these people, like I said, death threats, people wanting to shut... people threatening to bomb the place. They're going to shut it down. I have no doubt, not only because of the combination of threats and violence, but because all the one-star reviews and nobody's going there anymore. But this is how fucked up Americans are. You claim the Third Reich was evil because of structural violence, the legal mass murder of people you deem to be innocent. But you yourselves are being slaughtered by the millions by a capitalist system that has no interest in keeping you alive, even though your taxes pay the salary of all those cops, of all the FBI. But if you turn in those who strike out on your behalf, they'll be the first to tell you you aren't getting a penny in return. That's how fucked up your system is. And the structural violence is appalling, and many more millions of Americans have been killed by it than Jews were killed by Germans in the Third Reich. So you're all in a system far more evil than the Third Reich, but the only way they can distract you from it is to produce increasingly virulent anti-Nazi propaganda to the point that, well, they want you to reflexively kill Nazis whenever you find them. That's how insane your system is. That's all they've got now, is to tell you Nazis are bad.
24/7
Yeah.
through all forms of media, gaming, movies, videos, TV shows, documentaries, books. It's just non-stop producing an entire Third Reich propaganda.
Absolutely.
Keep each new generation brainwashed as soon as they're born.
Absolutely. And that's the...
And what's going to be funny,
Yeah, go on.
if they do resurface and, settle the score, all these dumb brainwashed people are, Nazis, I'm going to go attack them. And then millions of people are just going to be vaporized, throwing their lives away because they're programmed to hate the people their government wants them to hate.
Yes, exactly. Well, that's what we're here to try and prevent. Of course, what it comes down to is all of you, my listeners, need to spread the word, and you can't stop spreading it. The word needs to be spread that the...
Like a disease, needs to go everywhere.
Yes. We'll consider it a positive virus in this sense. as was originally the term viral, was not positive when they were using it for memetic science. As Brendan Zogit was saying, there was a book that was written that is very difficult to find now called Virus of the Mind, which was all about how this one man helped to design this kind of psychological warfare for capitalism, where they were infecting people's minds with, say, for instance, earworms, songs you can't get out of your minds that are just advertising jingles. And then, of course, somebody like Daniel Arola read it, and he just took that as instructions, like an instruction manual, and just spent all his time trying to trigger people on Facebook. That was his life. It was just to provoke people on Facebook, and then drive them to outrage, and then just feed off that because he was so sick and pathetic. And that made him feel so much more powerful and claim that he was centered, that he was without anger. But of course, he was full of anger, full of rage, and even taught a young man who was his student to abduct a young girl and keep her prisoner while raping her constantly in a storage facility till she escaped. The young black man in question, whose name I forget, God knows it was in my Facebook records, but those got taken down by Mark Zuckerberg, probably just to protect predators like that. And of course, he was sentenced to prison, but then again was released somehow. I don't know how the hell he got off of those charges after being imprisoned, no less, which means that not only was he arrested, he was also convicted. That was another point to make about the rewards. They'll say sometimes that the rewards will not be in effect unless the person is convicted, not just arrested, but actually indicted and convicted, which means that you have to wait for it to go through court of law, which could take years, before you get that money, if they decide to give you money at all. And always read the fine print, how they say you get up to this amount, meaning that legally they don't have to pay you anything. Because they could say, we said we'll pay you up to $1 million, but we decide we're not going to pay you anything, because that's from zero up to $1 million. And legally they can do that. They're not like a company that's selling you something and then you can say it's bait and switch, where, they said we're selling you a toaster oven and instead they send you an old television set. But rather it's people in authority, and therefore their bait and switch is not a product, but it's a bait and switch on their service. And in a sense, you can understand why they can get away with it. They're supposed to be out there hunting the bad guys. They're supposed to be out there risking their lives. But if you go out there and do it, you've just volunteered. You're doing their work for them. It's kind of like Darwinian selection. If you're going to be that stupid, they figure you don't deserve any money because you're that stupid to do their work for them when you're paying taxes for them to be doing that work. But then you go out and do it. If you're doing it for the promise of money, well, they didn't really promise you anything because you didn't read the fine print. That's so there you go. It's yeah. So all that being said, by the way, did you see, Nemo, that what I had sent you about what the fuck's going on with Oxford? What did you think of that?
Oxford.
Yeah. If you
I don't know if I saw that.
It's in your private messages on Skype. If you take a
Oh,
look.
all right. Oxford Summer School for ages 13 to 18.
Yeah. That's what the fuck. It's like and all they're showing are girls. So it's like the old college dons are like saying, "Hey, it's Oxford. We're not getting any attractive chicks here. Oh, what do we do? Oh, I know, in summertime, let's offer this summer school for them. And they got to be underage, because that's the way they like it, I guess. I mean,
What about, is that only for women though, that age range, 13, 18? Like, is it a girls only place, or it's boys going there too?
look at the pictures they're showing. All I see are bitches. Yeah. They aren't showing any boys.
Yeah, it's suspect. Yeah. Definitely suspect there, yeah.
It's, how do they get away with that?
Oh, being of a certain bloodline and having lots of money. Powerful connections. What, so the principal just brings in those young girls, oh, you haven't been keeping up on your studies, you're going to have to be punished. Yeah, it's creepy.
Oh.
I mean, if they're just all lesing out and that's all it is, that's fine, but I doubt it's that.
At any rate, so let's see if we can get somebody else on with us, or whether I'll just go straight to monologue. It certainly. What else comes to your mind?
It's funny how they're labeling the shooting of the CEO like not just a murder; it's a terrorist attack. It's terrorism. That's what they're portraying it as.
Oh, of course, they're going to hit him with everything they can. They're going to make an example of him. Certainly, you're not surprised.
And was the CEO Khazarian?
I don't know. He looked pretty much.
If so, then that's just more they could add to it. Oh, this was an anti-Semitic terrorist attack.
Yeah, he's certainly not Jewish, because they would have done that already. If he were Jewish,
that's what I tried looking into, just to look at his background.
Nah, he's just some white trash piece of shit. And the CEO,
most likely a Freemason.
Who knows? I mean,
we have to be in that. You have to be in those groups when you're in that position of power.
Maybe. It's like, let's put it this way. When a lot of people, the Freemasons recruit based on a lie that they can help you network and make certain you get places in life. That's the whole idea of being a Freemason. And it likely used to be like that. It used to be like that, where my dad was personally witness, my legal father, to cases where sailors in the Navy, given orders to do work, and then he saw every once in a while one or two of them would like flash a Freemason's ring, and then they were excused from work. I mean, this is at the enlisted men's level. So
yeah.
You can imagine what it was like with the officers. It was if you remember back in the days of the Honeymooners, that's an old TV series, and Fred Flintstone, and how about in the early days when you had these old serials that they were showing in theaters, the cliffhangers. In those days, they would often show your average white guy pounding a gavel involved in some Masonic lodge. It was like, every normal guy was supposed to be, expected to be, a joiner. Like, you join your local, men's lodge. That this was supposed to be a thing men did. And so the men would get together. Then it was usually portrayed as if it were in the spirit of like a neighborhood housing community or something. In other words, it would be like when you join a expensive gated community, and then you're required by living there to participate in the owners' meetings, where the homeowners, like a homeowners association, that's how they used to portray all these secret lodges, like they were extended homeowners associations, and everyone was getting together as kind of like a community network, just to make certain everybody was what they'd call a regular, like you're a regular guy. I guess later on this was all replaced by bowling clubs and shit, and but it gradually just kind of vanished. But in the days before that, obviously only the powerful were members of those lodges. So what had happened was with World War II, between World War I and World War II, when it became the century of the common man, they began to promote that phenomenon as like anybody can be part of a lodge, that it was like a populist kind of movement where people could be, you know, that it showed the upward mobility of the American middle class, that they now, not just like the founding fathers and former slave estate owners, these were now the common man could move into this lodge environment. And obviously, you know what Groucho Marx said, I wouldn't want to be a member of any club that would allow me to join. It pretty much got to the point where familiarity breeds contempt. And since every regular Joe was part of this stupid lodge setup, it all just went to shit. So now they're desperately trying to recruit anybody by the lie that you join these lodges and it's your network to a sweeter life, upward mobility. But your average person who joins these lodges doesn't get shit. That one clown I knew named Keith Johansson, who, like I told him when I brought him on my transmission, you know, don't argue with the host. But then he started arguing with me, and I went into this in some depth and detail on that episode that I got deathly sick when I was taking that stupid liquid they were telling me to drink for the colonoscopy the next day. And then Crystal River and Peter Moon were on that episode. And that's when I explained what happened when that Keith Johansson had attacked me on my own show. When I had told him, don't argue with the host, and he attacked me on my own show, was because he wanted to get back into his job of military intelligence. The story behind that, in brief, was that he joined the army as an enlisted man, wound up working with the NATO high command offices in Europe, where he, as a sergeant, was ordered to collate documents that were to be presented to his president, who at the time was Richard Nixon. And they would remind him, hey, make certain you do well with collating those documents for Richard Nixon to review the situation on the European front against the Russians. Because, you know, we were in Cold War. The Russians were expected to invade Europe at any moment on any given day. And he was always assembling these reports on the condition of the front as it would be the moment the Russians triggered that invasion. And they would remind him that his signature was the first thing Richard Nixon would see, because when he opened that documentary report, the person who would sign off on it would be the signature he would see was Keith Johansson's. So this was as respectable and as responsible a position as he ever had in his life. He never got over it. And this is the big problem with people who are in the military. What happens is you go in the military, you get into situations like this, you feel you're doing something important, you feel you're doing something urgent. You will never have that feeling again. For the average guy who like gets out of the military and goes back into some civilian life, you will never have that feeling again. Unless you become like a policeman or paramedic or some...
Or you start working for the 3-letter agencies.
Yeah, or some shit like that. Or enter private security, or become a mercenary like I did, something like that. You're just going to feel like the rest of your life's going to feel like you're lost. Like, what am I doing here? You know, I don't get that.
Mundane.
Yeah. And this is what happened to somebody like an extreme example, Ed Danes. And Ed Danes was in the military, and he became involved with this remote viewing. He sucked at it. They told him he sucked at it, but it was the most exciting thing that ever happened to him in his miserable, pathetic life. And so when he got kicked out of the military, he just went, you know, he stole one of their manuals, rewrote it himself, published it, and said, I've developed this remote viewing technique, and then went around telling everybody, first off, he exaggerated his rank by orders of magnitude. Said he was like a captain or a colonel or some bullshit when he was only a lieutenant, if that. And then went everywhere, selling remote viewing by telling a bunch of bullshit lies the rest of his life. And, I could go into further detail than that, but it's almost like that's just like if people are in for morbid entertainment, because there's really nothing to his life story other than that in basic. Anything else I'm giving is just details on how fucked up it was. Like the time that, they said, hey, we want you to remote view what's going on right now over the North Pole. And he came back and told his superiors, I remote viewed the Russian missile attack. We've got to respond now. Launch all our missiles now because their missiles are coming at us. And they said, you stupid fuck. We were just concentrating on giving you the impression that it was Santa Claus coming over the North Pole. And this is the message you come back with? And it's like, so that was at the level of psychic remote viewing capacity he had. So when it comes to Ed Danes, I could tell story after story like that. I mean, there's nothing about him that's positive. It's kind of like Peter Moon. It's just somebody found a niche with a bullshit scam they got going. And in the case of like when I was talking to Aaron Tice privately, and hopefully he comes on with us publicly sometime soon again. But he just recently, since our last show, as a matter of fact, or right before our latest episode, when I was speaking to him, he said something about, he had been the last person to interview Preston Nichols alive. Aaron Tice was. And when he was told by Peter Moon to present this sheet of paper to Preston Nichols saying, oh, you must sign over so that Peter Moon gets a few extra, like half an extra $1 for selling your books. And Preston just kind of gave this sad chuckle and signed it. And it was that Aaron finally realized, he said that Aaron didn't care because Aaron never got any money from Peter Moon. So it was almost like a joke that Peter Moon had asked him for that. And Aaron realizes Peter Moon never paid anybody he was working with a penny or a dime. But when it comes to all of that, I think even more bizarre is how, in a sense, well, I guess I better say this when Aaron's here so I can make better sense of what it was Aaron was trying to say. But when I was bringing up that Peter Moon obsession with Joe Matheny, and he would drone on for hours about just word salads, saying that, oh yeah, this synchronicity generator. Then he'll talk about how he wound up because of it in Chinatown. This was an obsession with Peter Moon. Whenever he visited San Francisco, he would take me to Chinatown, force me to take him to the spot where Joe Matheny almost killed a man, or a figment of his imagination, because this individual seemed to know everything about him. And Joe Matheny responded by trying to kill him. Now, even if you met a total stranger who seemed to know everything about you, my response would be to walk away. He's a stranger. And if he knows everything about me, the first thing I would think is he's a Fed. And, okay, what do I need to be talking to you for? So unless I'm detained, there's no reason for me to talk to you. And so I just walk away. When you reach out and strangle this individual, well, that's a psychotic reaction. It shows me Joe Matheny is a psychotic with a propensity towards violence that he obviously has no control over. That shows the kind of friends Peter Moon had. Yet when I brought this up with Aaron Tice said, well, what he really created was like the first functional chat GPT. Well, that just means if indeed he did do that, all that means is he's reinforcing his own insanity, because that's what a chat GPT does. All that is an echo bubble. So it's like you know, all of this is like what we've been dealing with for far too long. So, all that being said, anything else either one of you wants to bring up, or I'll just start diving into monologue since, you know.
Like after fucking with remote viewing, did they open the gates for him to go down some other shit like channeling fucking spirits or conjuring and fucked his life up even more? How did it end for him, as far as you know?
Oh, with Ed Danes, what happened was, he was, first off, again, we're dealing with somebody who exploited and profited off the public obsession with child predation. He would claim that my team, you know, meaning a bunch of his cultists who followed his bullshit, where we do these monster hunts. We call them monster hunts, where we hunt down these child predators using our remote viewing. Yeah, if he was ever able to locate any child predators, it was because he was networking with them. But at any rate, what happened was the usual shit. He went to Ukraine, like everybody does. By that I mean, you have no idea before the war. It was back in the day, and I'm talking like maybe 30 years ago by now, 20 years ago. As soon as the Berlin Wall fell, Ukraine is one of the most fertile areas on earth. You had a lot of people like, say for instance, there was this little company that made it big for a while called Juicy Juice. What a stupid name. But at any rate, Juicy Juice went to Ukraine, and they could just buy entire acres of land or lease it and grow grapes and fruits and other shit that they could then crush into juice for like pennies on the dollar, if that much, compared to what you do it for here in America, where land's expensive, fertile land is all fucked up by chemical fertilizer, and everything is produced by major corporations that have a monopoly, so it costs millions of dollars to make juice. And so what happened was, when these guys started putting Juicy Juice on the market, they were selling it for pennies on the dollar, because they were making it, growing it, and making it in Ukraine, and putting it on the American market at a markup of maybe $1, and they started making, you know, they start raking in the bank because everybody's buying their cheap ass juice. And so Ocean Spray and other big juice corps got together and busted their ass by saying they're not following FDA standards in America. They're growing it in this, you know, foreign nation and not following our rules for filtration and pasteurization and shit. And, you know, pretty much shut them down. So everybody was going to...
They're not poisoning their juice like ours.
yeah. And so then what happened was everybody was going to Ukraine for that. And, of course, for, you know, cheap girls. Not to insult Ukrainian chicks at all. It's just that, you know, it's like Peter Moon going over to Romania. You know, it's not to insult Paula Masson, the child bride that he brought back.
Because they're poor and desperate.
Yeah,
so they take what they can get.
That's right. That's right. So everybody was going there. So that's what Ed Danes did. So Ed Danes, who was preaching the world's going to end, we're all going to die, for every year of his life for 20 years, went to the Ukraine, picked up some, you know, 14-year-old chick, and brought her home. But his biggest problem was he couldn't fuck her because he was so drunk all the time. He had terminal whiskey dick, and he was just totally flaccid. And so she was bitching to me the way Paula Masson would bitch to me about Peter Moon. Each one of them bitching about different, you know, their own. I'm not going to give her name out because I don't want to, you know, get her involved in any trouble. But yeah, she was telling me he couldn't fuck at all. that he was, dying of his alcoholism. He was just a alcoholic old man. So that's what happened to Ed Danes.
Just bragging rights to all of his other sexual predator friends. Yeah, look what I snagged.
Yeah.
But I can't fuck her.
Yeah. Oh, he wouldn't tell him that, of course.
Because they take her away from him. My dick works. Come live with me.
Yeah. There you go. Yeah. So that's it.
How did he get away with bringing a 14-year-old from Ukraine to the United States?
He had to wait until she was 18. He had to wait for years. He went over there and married her ass, and then had to keep going back to the Ukraine every year to maintain his marriage rights to her by Ukrainian law or whatever. And then, when she turned 18, he brought her back to the United States. I told you how Peter Moon wound up smuggling, for lack of a better word, Paola into the U.S. But, you remember Peter Moon used to, join in on the attack whenever I would shit or piss all over Art Bell for, marrying his wife's daughter. And it was like her sister. Yeah, and it's I'm conflating him with Elon Musk's dad, who married his wife's daughter, his own daughter, actually, when you think about it. But what happened was with, at any rate, just so people know, Paula Masson was too young for Peter to bring in, so there had to be some things that were done. Yet he would join me when I was shitting and pissing all over Art Bell for marrying his wife's sister, who was underage, and then having to grease the wheels and bribe any number of people. God knows how many people he bribed up the line, but he had the money to do it before he was able to bring her back to the United States at the age of 16. I think what they did in the case of Art Bell was he actually had to claim he was adopting her because her marriage in the Philippines to him was not necessarily legally recognized by the United States, or they could afford to ignore the paperwork if he bribed the right people. And instead, he brought her in as an adoptee. And then later on, just as soon as he was back in the U.S. with her, said that, oh yeah, she's my wife. But remember, for years, I think what happened was they ultimately kicked him out of the U.S. again for that, because he had to move back to the Philippines and transmit from the Philippines for several years till she turned 18 before he could come back with her. So, it was a god-awful mess for him. And he was, there's just no words. Just no words. For those of you who don't know, of course, he killed his own wife because she was a asthmatic. And he claimed, she couldn't find her breather when they lived in a double wide. It's like, there's no way she couldn't. Look, if somebody's an asthmatic to the point where they could die from it, their breather is hanging around their neck like it's a crucifix. They're not going to lose it. He took it from her and hid it. If not taunting her with it, waving it in front of her while she died, which I can easily imagine him doing. But this is why, David John Oates, I think his name is, doing the reverse speech.
Yeah.
Thank you. I almost said remote speech. Doing the reverse speech. That's why he said Art Bell is a fucking pedo. And that, and by the way, it's like Art Bell sued him over that. How could you not say Art Bell is a pedo based on everything I just described?
Yeah.
Yeah, he gets sued for it for millions of dollars, loses his case, and has to run back to Australia to escape extradition. It's a mad world we live in. It's a mad world.
And I've noticed other people who are suspect sexual predators, they give praises to Art Bell. I've noticed.
Anyone who does. Yeah, well, that's where my gang stalkers all met. Richard K. Cole Jr. all met on Belgab. They all met on Belgab. Which had to change his name to Elgab because it got busted for all the child porn that was being exchanged on it. Did you know that?
No, just a bit about it. I remember you talking about that years ago on a different show.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, but yeah, Art Bell, he's definitely a predator.
Yeah. And you know how his son
Just
died.
like Woody Allen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you
How
know
did
how
his son die?
his son died. By the way, Art Bell never married a white chick in his life, which again is his child predation showing. Like I said, Asian guys love white women because they're like living, breathing blow-up dolls. Everything's exaggerated in proportion. But white men love Asian women because they never...
little girls.
Yeah, because they never grow proportionately to a white man or woman. They look eternally childlike. So they're like Cupid dolls that the white men just love because they're kids that never grow up physically. And so they can just fuck them, these flat-chested Asian chicks, and pretend they're fucking some underage girl because the built's the same. And it's like fucking a child because, like I said, the one guy I worked with who was a nice enough guy, Alan Budd, he had yellow fever. He was a security enforcement agent, and he was involved with some Asian woman he couldn't even fit inside of. And that's when I had to give him the hint I learned from all the child predators at the Presidio.
Oh, the advice.
Yeah, the advice.
Oh, yeah, just sit in a bathtub full of icy water and have your dick shrink.
Yeah, that's it. Sit in a bathtub full of ice water before you have sex. Then when you get erect, it'll be shrunken and yeah, it worked, Doug. Yeah, how'd you ever learn about that? You know. It was
you don't want to know.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, from growing up surrounded by child predators on the Presidio. Then when it came to which one was I talking about? There's so many of these fuckers we were bringing up. Aside from, his son. So Art Bell, all he married was Asian chicks. So his first two wives were Okinawan. And by the second Okinawan wife, he had a son who was half Asian. Now, somehow, his son was allowed by Art Bell to go on a single-child field trip with his teacher. So Art Bell signed off on his son being allowed to go off on a field trip with his instructor, who then raped him and infected him with AIDS, which
oh my God.
Then killed his son. You know, so his son died of AIDS because he was raped by a teacher who Art Bell...
Was the teacher fucking Gary Hambright?
It's interesting you asked that. No, it was not. It was... I don't...
Like, that was the joke, but because he had AIDS. And
No, got it. No, I get it. Yeah, and I can see, I can see the morbid, the dark humor. I can see it. Yeah, but no, But this guy had a criminal background. Yeah, Art Bell signed off for his son to be accompanied by this man alone into the desert. What does that tell you about?
Suspect.
Yeah.
What father would allow that? It's like he wanted his son to fucking be raped and killed.
Thank you. And so it's it's obviously
probably because he hated having a half Asian kid or something. So he just wanted to fuck the women. I didn't want to reproduce with Asian children or something like that.
I get it.
Was he racist against Asians besides wanting to fuck them?
Yeah, generally speaking, that type of fetish is racist in and of itself. So that would not surprise me. Yeah, that would not surprise me. I could easily see that. I could see that. So astute observation with that.
What a piece of shit. Fucking.
Oh yeah, human garbage. Human fucking subhuman. Not
he's
even.
Dead now, isn't he? Like,
thank God. Yeah, thank God.
Rotting in hell.
Yeah,
he's getting raped by the devils.
We can only hope. As I said, your average earthly terrestrial dictator in mortal life doesn't believe in hell, which is why they feel obligated to create one on Earth. You gotta admit, you can see why they would. There's a lot of humanity that just deserves persecution and deserves to suffer. look at what they do. It's so all such being said,
well, the slate might get erased eventually if things don't work out the way it needs to.
Dude, we're gonna see in the next 4 years with Donald Trump, you're gonna see the whole world going to hell, and everyone is gonna pay the price. I'm talking about every nation on earth is gonna be impacted by this.
Oh yeah. Because if America's economy drops, then that's going to cause a chain reaction to all the other nations who do their marketing with them and business with them and all that.
Absolutely. And so it's going to impact everybody. But all we can do
start learning to grow your own food and get your own fresh water, people.
Well, it's not. How do I say that?
Oh, it's just if it all collapses, there's nothing to supply you, so you have to be self-reliant. You got no choice to survive. Of
course, what you say is true, but we've got to be realistic about this. The only hope for most people is to band together and do our best to rebuild civilization as quickly as possible. Because there's no way in hell. The overwhelming majority of us cannot ever grow enough food to sustain ourselves. We can't grow food, period. First off, you got to wait for the, to metaphor.
Oh, yeah, I know that.
Yeah, got to wait for the spinach to turn up, so to speak. I mean, if you're planning, fucking food.
Just prepare for the worst.
Yeah.
If you're capable of doing so.
Yeah, that's all we can do. And, but
obviously, most people are never going to do that.
Yeah.
They're just too used to convenience, practicality.
Yeah, beyond that, it's
and stupid.
Yes, there's that, but also the realistic nature of, being just, you and I and Aristides, the three of us could be loose somewhere near farmland, and say we go to wind up on a farm, say the power is out. You can't even do modern farming without power. We'd be left at trying to harness oxen.
Get the cows to pull the fucking machinery for you to plow the ground.
Yeah, it's just not going to work.
The poor Asian people, we've got to do that.
Yeah. It's just not going to work.
You don't have to plow to grow food. You can adopt the no plow strategy, which exists, not for industrial farming, but for small scale farming.
True. What Aristides says is absolutely correct. When you're doing sustenance farming, that is true. However, first off, growing food, waiting for it to turn up by harvest season,
and trying to prevent insects eating it.
Not to mention roving armed motorcycle gangs.
Who'll want to rob you.
It's a terror. It's just, dude, there's no hope. You might as well be. I personally
might as well just be the person stealing from the scumbags, taking their food, money, guns, ammo, medicine.
That's what I would be reduced to.
That's what I was telling myself the other night. If shit hits the fan, I'm just going to start robbing pieces of shit and taking all their fucking food.
Yeah.
Fuck them. I'm just going to hunt them.
Cool. I won't argue with that. Yeah.
No more laws of man, and everyone's out to kill each other for supplies, and you got no choice.
Yes. I can only hope and pray it does not come to that, but we all know it will. It's going to be that in some areas at least, and certainly for a period of time. So
start honing in your hunting and killing abilities.
Well, there's that. Or simply support myself in achieving secular power through force of arms, and enough of us together can just retake and rebuild civilization. It's what it takes. So we're on the precipice, but I'll get into talking about that. When it comes to other things that strike the two of you in terms of something that we could talk about, I can jump straight into monologue, but anything else that comes to your mind that you've been observing lately, Aristides?
If you give me a minute, I might go and see what I've kind of saved. I'm just away from my
Sure. Take your time.
my helm. Yeah.
Yeah, Nemo and I'll burn bandwidth easily.
Yeah, I
Mm.
was
But,
looking in back about the Hillary Bloodgate thing, like how Bill Clinton, as governor, was responsible for
Crashing the
getting
world.
the
One of the people
yeah,
responsible. Yeah.
state prison
Yeah.
for donating all that blood to prisoners, and they were just doing it because they were being paid to hand in a pint of blood, like $7 a pint,
Yeah.
and they were selling it for like shitloads, like $50 a pint on the market, and then all crashing because it was all infected with STDs and hepatitis and all that shit. It's just funny, $7 per pint for a prisoner to do so. It's like it was intentionally planned, just sabotage the market for someone's gain.
Yeah.
Which kind of was, because Benazir Bhutto, was it really planned just for her and some other people to then, like, was it more than Benazir Bhutto, like harvesting people's blood till they die and sell it on the market? Or was it just to help her, like Hillary's orchestrating it through Bill, because he was a puppet for Hillary?
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me. I had never thought of it that way, as being done intentionally to help Benazir Bhutto, but when I reflect upon it, it may as well have been. Whether it was or not, that's how it worked out.
Because
Certainly,
how could you be?
Yeah.
You'd
Go on.
have to be, because if not, then you're retarded and incompetent to pull something like that off. Oh yeah, have prisoners donating their blood. You should just know off the bat that that's a bad idea to do so.
Well, yeah, to tell you, obviously what you say is true, but to recap that experience for our listeners who may not have heard it before, what Nemo is referencing became known as Billary Bloodgate. Billary being a portmanteau, or a combined word of Hillary and Bill. And Bill and Hillary, of course, were this couple that became president and first lady. When it came to Bill Clinton, he was, of course, a criminal through and through. He pardoned his own brother out of prison, for those of you who don't know.
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
What was his brother in prison for?
for being some, Dixie mobster.
All right.
Yeah, it was just, for those of you who, there was this thing called the Dixie Mafia. And basically, Bill Clinton and all his brothers were the Dixie Mafia. They dominated crime in the Solid South. And what happened was, he gets involved with this lawyer because he originally hired Hillary Clinton to get him off some charges or some shit. Now, bear in mind, it wasn't like he was a poor boy. He was a Rhodes Scholar. He had, gone to England, where he had also met Hillary. And ultimately, I think they met there, but then they got intimate when they, became involved with crime in the United States. And what happened was, they were a couple of real mobsters, real killers. And she made her legal reputation by helping to write a bunch of documents concerning the impeachment of Nixon. In other words, when Nixon was being impeached, she was one of the people who was the driving force behind his being impeached. So that was when she was making her reputation as an attorney. And that's how she got into Washington politics. So she decided, since she was a woman and she couldn't become president, realistically, she used Bill Clinton as a battering ram, and he was indeed her puppet. So for those of you who, feel sad about Hillary not being elected, understand she was already running the country for 8 years in the guise of Bill Clinton. All he was doing was running around fucking everybody. Which, if anybody reviews the administration of Bill Clinton, that's what you'll know. What I say is true. She was effectively presidentress, the power behind the throne. But before they became that couple, that power couple at that level, when he was in Arkansas, what he was doing contributed heavily to the collapse of the blood market. But believe me, the blood market was going to collapse anyway. They just made it happen a lot sooner. But in those days, in all fairness, the blood market itself, or rather the blood industry, was completely corrupt in every way imaginable. They were paying homeless people, drug abusers, and street walking prostitutes for their blood. And they were doing that from the beginning. So it was just getting worse and worse, because in the beginning, not every homeless person, not every alcoholic, not every drug abuser, not every street walking prostitute was that sick. You know, they only started getting really sick and carrying these horrific diseases in the 80s. And so by the time it got to that point, and they were still taking these people off the streets and taking their blood for money. You know, you would go to line up on certain days when they were collecting blood. You know, you'd see all these homeless people and prostitutes and alcoholics and heroin addicts all lining up to get their blood taken because they'd get $20 and a donut. You'd get the donut to help rebuild your blood sugar after your blood was taken. And you could smell the line long before you would see them, is what I've been told. So when they're taking blood from these people, sure, the blood market was bound to crash. At some point, all the diseases in what they were collecting would accumulate to the point where a critical point would be reached. But it got hit a lot sooner, thanks to Bill Clinton, who, as governor of Arkansas, arranged for this program with the prison system so that he could make a big reputation for himself with his blood drives by saying, look at how much blood we're contributing thanks to my blood drives in Arkansas, when he was just, you know, arranging it so that the prisoners would get this opportunity. And of course they all donated their blood, and of course they were all fucking each other, and they had every disease imaginable. So the kicker, what Nemo was bringing up, was the fact that when all of it came to the critical point where they just knew the blood market was going to crash, they did a little insider trading, I mean to say, not training. And so what happened was Hillary Clinton called up her sorority sister, Benazir Bhutto. Now, Benazir Bhutto and Hillary Clinton were part of this sorority called Hell's Harlots over there in, I think it was Oxford. And they were at some big, expensive reputation school in England. I think it was Oxford. And what happened was they were sorority sisters, and she was sorority sisters with some of these really bitchy, cunt-kicking lesbians. They were all fucking each other or sucking each other's snatches. And one of her sorority sisters was Tansu Çiller, who was so fucking butch, she became the prime ministress, the first female prime minister of Turkey. And in a Muslim nation, no less, she forced her husband to take her last name. Which shows you what a bold dyke she was. Then the other one was Benazir Bhutto, who always referred to herself as a spoiled Muslim princess. And what happened was Hillary called her up and said, hey, look, the blood market's going to crash, and you can make a killing on this. And she made a literal killing. I don't know anyone else who did it, so it was all done probably for Benazir Bhutto in that sense, or certainly the insider trading was. And so Benazir Bhutto took action because she was in charge of a nation. She was the princess and presidentress of Pakistan. And because they had had at least 5 major wars with India, and for those of you who don't know, the largest tank battles in the 20th century history after World War II were between Pakistan and India, in which they were battling it out in mechanized columns in the Thar Desert. That's the killing field of the tanks between Pakistan and India. And it got to the point where both of them acquired nukes, and their wars were almost going nuclear. So she was telling her army, we're going to have another war. We're going to need a lot of backup blood for our injured troops, so I want all our troops to donate blood. And they said, of course. And now all the troops, of course, were tested. You couldn't enter the army without being tested for STDs. So they were all tested for AIDS, tested for every STD imaginable, and they were all clean, or they couldn't be in the military. So she gave the corpsmen, meaning the paramedics, the people who would take the blood, she gave the corpsmen secret orders to strap the troops down and drain them dry. And she killed 20,000 of her own men in a single day. They drained, they strapped them down. Instead of taking 1 pint, the medics took 12. Talk about a vampire. And she took all that blood, and the market couldn't say no. The market had crashed. So she presented them with the only clean blood source in the world, made a killing for hundreds of millions of dollars, because the desperate wealthy people were willing to pay anything. And then she fled Pakistan for her life and moved to London for the next 20 years. Then when Hillary was running for president, she said, you can go back to Pakistan now. And I told everybody she's going to die. As soon as she got off the plane, before she was down that, little runway that they set up so you can step down from the plane, and I call it an inflatable staircase or whatever the fuck it is. They roll up the ladder that's, she started walking down that, and a man with a suicide bomb pack jumped right down to the base of that step ladder and was going to take her out, and he blew up prematurely. Before he could run up the ladder, and he killed, a bunch of people who were still walking down the ladder ahead of her. Maybe dozens of people died, including himself, but she survived that, got into an armored car, started going towards her estate when another suicide bomber dove underneath the car and blew himself up, and she died the way all these GIs in Iraq died of improvised explosive device attack, IED attack. They all died of TBI, or a traumatic brain injury. She died like they did, whether you have a helmet or not. When that IED blows up under your armored Humvee, your head slaps against the ceiling, the roof of the armored car so heavily, your helmet will help to crush your skull open, and you die of a traumatic brain injury, what's called TBI. That's exactly how she died. That's the story of Hillary Bloodgate. Let's check these notifications from Aristides. Okay, so Aristides got plenty of them. I'll look at the last one first. OpenAI whistleblower found dead in San Francisco apartment. Suchir Balaji, 26, claimed the company broke copyright law. Well, that poor son of a bitch. Prayers for him. May he rest in peace. Looks like he thinks pretty highly of himself. He's got a nice photograph taken of himself like he thought he was going to be famous. Looks like he got dead. So he'll never be famous now. You might say he's dead and famous for the moment, but, well, there you are. And then there we are, Arkansas Bloodsuckers. That's presented by Nemo. And Counterpunch.
I posted it in the YouTube chat too.
Excellent, thank you. Thank you. Yeah. Oh, very important. I'm so glad that you. So there we are. People are confirming everything I was telling people for years, and there you have it. Let me see now.
Do you happen to know why Benazir Bhutto specifically went to London?
Oh well, because London used to be the colonizer of the British Raj. That's why. So, they're all connected.
Oh, yeah, because she hates Indians, so she's like, yeah, I'm on their side.
Yeah, there you go. Yes. Yeah, no mystery there.
And if you got hundreds of millions of dollars, you can buy yourself a nice fucking mansion.
Oh, fuck yeah.
All that shit. Yeah. They got some nice mansions over there for rich people.
Oh, yeah.
Castles and shit.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Definitely. And let's take a look at what else is entered in our notifications here. Here we are, more stuff from Aristides. Here we are. Yisrael Benov Candice Owens relitigating the USS Liberty incident in which Israel mistakenly, quote unquote, that's some bullshit, killed 34 U.S. sailors. That wasn't mistaken. 57 years ago, while running defense for Hezbollah, which deliberately killed 241 U.S. Marines 43 years ago, is peak irony. Oh, these are Jews bitching to each other. Yeah, Israel Ben Af. We didn't mistakenly kill those men. They were tapping our comms and sharing our info with Egypt. We fucked them up. America knew they got caught fueling a war, putting our people at risk, and backed down. Don't need to wash this down. Just like how during this war they were leaking all our plans to strike Iran. Now we don't tell them shit. Well, there you go. Couple of Jews bitching to each other about how they've got to keep things to themselves.
Exposing his true colors around there.
Yes. Yair Rosenberg. I never knew this. When the Soviets liberated Auschwitz, they forgot to bring a camera to document it, so they came back with one and had the starved Jewish inmates reenact the liberation for their propaganda. That's really something. Yeah.
They'll use that, or they'll just use photos and footages of Eastern Europeans in the gulags and prisons, that were put there from the Soviet Union, and they'll just think, oh, the people will believe this was just imprisoned Jews.
Yes.
When they were really just fucking Eastern Europeans, suffering from being in prison for communism and shit.
Yes. Well, there's always that. That's true too. Here we are. Massive explosion seen in northwestern Syria near the city of Tartus, following an Israeli strike against a munitions depot, with the explosion reported to have been so large that measured a 3.0 magnitude earthquake on nearby seismic sensors. By the way, so if you heard me the last episode before tonight's, I brought up the fact that Israel struck Syria 1,000 times within 24 hours. So I don't know if you guys caught that from the last episode. But this, of course, is part of that. And it looks almost like they're using tactical nukes. Whatever they're using, it's like a Moab, one of those mother of all bombs types of affairs.
Yeah.
It's just, they don't give a shit. They're fucking genocidal. And they get away with it because, they suffered a Holocaust, quote unquote. Okay, so let me heart all these, and along with that, speaking of San Francisco, just so people know, Luigi Manioni's mother filed a missing persons report in November, and it was filed in San Francisco on November 18th. So he went missing in San Francisco before he showed up to kill that son of a bitch. She filed it with the San Francisco Police Department. So there you go with that.
And he was a young dude. He is a young dude, 26 years old.
Yeah.
Fucking hell. But he looks older than that because he's got a real hairy fucking face.
Well, not only that, but, bear in mind, he's been through some serious health issues with his back.
Yeah.
Poor bastard. And he's doing okay in prison. He's not well because of his health issues, but the prisoners adore him. They're upholding him as a hero. Even when you see those bastards on Fox News, the motherfuckers that Peter Moon was always getting his news sourced from, if you could call it news, it's nothing but propaganda. They're all saying, they'll tear him alive! They'll tear him up alive in prison and shit on Fox News. Peter Moon's probably eating that shit up and believing it, if he's got any sense of awareness or cognizance left. They're all upholding him as a hero. Thank God. So he's being kept safe. No one's going to touch him. Peter Moon's probably so stupid listening to that Fox News, he probably thinks Luigi Manioni's dead by now. he's
The prison commissary's probably giving him free food. Yeah, thanks for doing a good job.
Well, all the prisoners get free food, but you mean extras on the side.
Yeah.
Hope he doesn't get fat in there, but then again, he's got nonstop access to the weightlifting facilities, so yeah, it's probably no danger of that. So let's see now if anyone else has joined us.
Do you know what type of prison he was sent to?
Actually, not
security
specifically. We can find that out easy enough. Hell, Aristides good at this. You're both good at this. Let's look it up together and see what we find. Which prison? Which prison? Prison is they're denied him bail, of course. Luigi Yoni and Yoni in. Here we are. Okay. And Pennsylvania prison, I think. Paul prison, Huntington housing, privileged Baltimore family, roots of okay, time in prison, evidence, Pennsylvania. It's Pennsylvania. So, Huntingdon. Huntingdon. Huntign. Hunting. D-O-N. Huntingdon prison. Poor bastard. Here we are. What life video? What life is like for Luigi Manion in prison? Probably the majority of people are living so badly in the United States right now they would envy him. But he's got definitely powerful family roots. Yeah, he's not going to be doing too badly. Still, it's a shame he got caught.
Well, he's Italian, so he's probably got some mobster relatives.
What's that? Oh, yes. Good point.
He's Italian.
Yeah. Good point. I mean, yeah, likely. I was going to say that when he does go to trial, trials are sometimes swayed by public opinion. So there is a chance things could go in his favor. It sounds hard to believe, and it may not happen, but it could. Because the public sympathy with him is so high that you know, if they send
the jury of his peers will just side with him.
The possibility is
let him out. Don't let him go to prison.
There's that possibility, but the ultimate power rests with the judge, and the judge could be afraid to sentence him severely. Yeah. Do you see what I'm saying? In that.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so that could sway the judge to, no matter what the jury decides, to just.
But the people will just start sending him death threats for sending him to prison.
Yeah. The judge could feel compelled to, give him a sentence that's disproportionately light. Let's put it that way. But right now, the prosecutors are trying to throw everything at him. Like you said, say he's a terrorist and all this other evil shit. But like I said, he's striking back against a system of structural violence. Let's see what John Henry McMills Warrington said. John Henry Warrington is what I should call him. He said, let me see. One description could be missing. Missing description replaced with, description not found on file. Official moonless transmission. Okay. Oh, I see. It est 29. So I'll try and get back to him about that. Let's see now. Then he wrote, sent me the link here. Let's see if this link takes me someplace. If not, still a mystery to me why he sent that. I guess that's the image that comes up. And then, link to file, odyssey.com. Okay. And then I'll leave it as that for now, but I made a note of it by putting it here so I can check it later. Okay, so we'll acknowledge that. Oh yes, let's acknowledge John Doe. Is this that of course is T-Tank Barry. T-Tank Barry sent me some wonderful images of the Peacock Angel. Goddess bless him. And thank you
Yeah, I
so
saw an image of that. It looks cool.
Yes, very good. I don't know where he got that. Let me take a look at this other screen thing. It sent me a number of videos. I'll have to ask him what they are. And I'm sure they're fine, but just not going to review them right now on air. And shout out to Amy Como, of course. She helped me with $300 to make rent 2 months ago. I'm paying her back $100 a month starting this month. And, you know, might have to do it every other month depending on how serious the situation gets financially. But to all of you out there, definitely need your help to pay the rent. It is the holiday season. You know I'm going to be spending beyond my means. And therefore, I'll be counting on all of you to get me through it. Okay, I'm going to launch into the monologue. Let's take a look at the number of listeners we've got. I might as well get started right now. And so, I want people to know that, well, anything to say before I jump into monologue? Suck all the oxygen out of the room. Nemo?
I'm all good.
Okay, yeah. All right, thank you, Aristides, if you want to...
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, yeah, I'm good. If you're ready to go, I'm good. I don't
Okay.
have anything particularly important. I can just find other topics. But if you feel like you're, you know, in that sweet spot where you want to go, just go. Yeah.
Okay, I'll go with it then. So, thank you, both of
Or
you.
maybe, you know, if you touch on something I had something on, maybe I'll interrupt you then.
Both of you are welcome to do so. Yeah, both of you are welcome to interject anytime. And
Yeah, interject. Yeah, that's the right word. Yeah, I'll interject. Yeah. I'll assist. I will assist with more opinions. That's what I'll do.
Yes, and I reserve the right, of course, to impose myself upon either one of you should I suddenly feel the need to relieve myself or go to the restroom. Yes, so I don't foresee that happening right now, but okay. All right, I'm going to dive
Just
into
get a stadium catheter. Joking.
yeah, please. Oh, just the thought of that. Yeah, when my poor dad, I had to deal with that with him for a while. Then it was only a period of months, but then I was able to retrain him to use his bladder. It was all due to a horrible malpractice on the part of the medical industrial complex where they goddamn near killed him and injured